Okay, so the chips are thin, they were crunchy, they were good. The salsa had a little bit of a kick. It's not burning. I wouldn't say it's super spicy. And it's pretty good. I feel like that's something that I would see, I would give it maybe together like an 8 out of 10.
The chips tasted really good. They were light and airy. Not really too greasy, which was great, and they were really crunchy. The salsa was really good. I think it'd be better warm, but it was still really good. And picoso, but not like melt your brains off. So 9-10 for both of them.
So again, the chips are good. The queso, I'm a little concerned about. This is what they call the Felix queso, which is that second oldest Mexican restaurant in Houston, but it's closed down now. This is what it looks like. Okay. This isn't what I expected, and it's not what I wanted. I would have to rate this a 0. I'm sorry.
I have a lot of opinions about this queso. None of them are good. It was really chunky and not really queso viscosity. The taste was decent. It just was a weird texture, and this is not what I think of when I think of queso ever. There's no number low enough to rate it, so maybe -2, 0. I don't even want to eat it. But
So the beans are actually kind of really good. The flavor is good, the consistency is good, the color is okay. It's a little disconcerting at first, but it's really good. It's probably so far my favorite, even though I haven't had some of the other stuff yet. I feel like this is something that I would definitely try to get again. It definitely reminds me of something that I would like. If I had to give this a number, I'd give this a solid 9 out of 10. Okay, so the rice is white. And that to me is always a red flag. I'm used to my rice being a nice little orange, a nice little pink, a hint of tomato, if you will. It's kind of bland, not my favorite. But if you mix it with the beans, I guess it's salvageable. I would give it a solid, maybe like a 4 out of 10. It's cooked well. It's just no seasoning. So the taco, I feel good about. The tortilla is a little thin. It's maybe needed a few more seconds to be completely cooked through, but the meat is really good, and that's all that's really in there. And so the meat has a pretty good flavor, pretty good texture. It seems to be cooked really, really well, not super dry, but also not like super red. I would definitely give this a solid 8 out of 10.
Here we are at Molina's Cantina, which was established in 1941 and is the longest running Mexican restaurant in Houston. We couldn't do our review inside because it was a little too high class and the atmosphere just wasn't appropriate, so we were voiceovering our review. The menu was very expansive, but we stuck to the same food order to be able to review each restaurant we visited consistently. We ordered chips and salsa, queso, and tacos. First with the chips and salsa. The red salsa lacked flavor and severely lacked spice, but the green salsa made up for it with its spicy creaminess and touch of jalapeno. The chips were clearly handmade, crispy, airy, and delicious. Next we ordered the queso, which was fantastic, especially compared to the one at El Patio. The meat added great flavor and texture, although it was very greasy.
For the entree, we ordered a beef fajita taco on a flour tortilla. The tortilla was a little on the greasy side, but the meat was cooked well. It was missing a spicy or creamy component, but overall the taco was really good.
Okay, so we're inside of Alisa's car. Tacos Tierra Caliente is right behind us. It's kind of cold and a little rainy, and I would repeat what my grandmother usually says about this type of rain, but I don't think it's appropriate. So we came inside just because we think it was kind of not suitable for eating outside, if we could say that. So I ordered 3 tacos. Two of them are fajita, and one of them is barbacoa. And you know it's a real Mexican place because I got a half lime. And it's not one of those little limes, it's one of these big ass limes. And we also just have some napkins in here. I also went ahead and they had the self-serve. And I got una tapita de salsa verde and one of salsa roja. So we're gonna open these up. They're really nice and warm, and they smell kind of good already. All right, so now we're gonna get in on some of this lime action. Okay, so now it's time for la salsa. I'm gonna try this green one first. That burns immediately. You can feel the rage behind whoever made this. I'm here for it. Oh my god. That's one angry lady. I don't know who's making that, but she's angry. I don't think I can put that on my taco. Okay, so I just found an entire chile rojo, but it's not dry. I don't know if I'm supposed to eat it too. So final thoughts here on Tacos Tierra Caliente. This is definitely what I think of when I think of a taco. It's got the double tortilla, it's got the onions, it's got the cilantro, it's got the lime, everything that I would originally think of. Definitely something that I feel like I would see at home. I think something that's really interesting about the place is the location where they park, because it seems like this is a regular space. It's kind of in a Montrose-y area, which seems a little out of place, but and it reflects with their menu and like their clientele. But other than that, pretty interesting and overall really good. If I had to give it a score, I would definitely give it like an 8 or a 9 out of 10.
So the restaurants we visited were important to our documentary because they had historical significance in the Mexican Houston culture. The first one we visited was El Patio, and that one isn't necessarily the oldest running restaurant, but it is a brother restaurant to the first Mexican restaurant established here in Houston, which is Felix's. And some of the menu items on El Patio come from Felix's. We then visited Molina's, which is now the longest running Mexican restaurant in Houston. And then we visited Roach Coach to kind of show the present and future climate of Mexican restaurants. I'm from Houston. I don't really think those restaurants reflect Mexican culture authentically. I think they did their best, but they were more a palatable version of Mexican culture. Very, very toned down. The only place I would kind of say that was more authentic was Molina's. It was beautiful inside, and everyone there spoke Spanish. All the workers spoke Spanish. But in every place we went to, even the taco truck, it wasn't really Latino customers. It wasn't really a Latin atmosphere. Like, yes, the restaurant was, but everyone eating there wasn't. It was mostly white people, which really isn't an issue, but I think it kind of shows that Mexican people and Latino people aren't really taking to those places. So it shows that the Mexican culture is accepted in Houston widely, obviously, but I don't think it's truly accepted. It's more of just intense toleration and admiration, but not really wanting them a part of our community.
In the end though, it wasn't super negative. The food wasn't the greatest, but it still was like a great experience, and I like seeing the formation of Mexican restaurants and how it's been, since Houston started, Mexico has been a great part of our community and has influenced our culture a lot. So even though the restaurants weren't particularly good, they are important to our legacy, and they're just traditions in Houston that are great to keep up. So although, like I said, the food wasn't the best, I think I have future hope for future restaurants in Houston.
So how do you feel the restaurants we visited reflected the Mexican culture in Houston?
So after visiting some of these restaurants, I feel like we definitely noticed and observed a few things. Mainly, one of the main things that we kind of saw was that most of the clientele and the customer base that these restaurants had were non-Hispanic. So we went to El Patio and somebody had booked most of the restaurant out, and a lot of the people coming out while we were sitting outside were Anglo. We went to Molina's and a lot of the people there were also non-Hispanic, although most of their workers were. And when we went to Tacos Tierra Caliente, behind me in a very legally blonde moment, like these two like younger white girls showed up with their like purse dogs and their like purple leashes. So I feel like that says something about the acceptance in the city of our culture and our food to a certain degree, but I don't feel like that directly correlates to an acceptance of us as a community and as a people here. Because Houston prides itself in being a sanctuary city, but it's not completely. Another thing, I feel like the acceptance and the acclamation of these restaurants to the city and the city to these restaurants is more of a tell of the longevity of the community here in Houston more than an acceptance, a complete and utter acceptance. I feel like it definitely says something that some of the most popular and like sought after restaurants are like Ninfa's and Molina's, and like they've been in the city for so many years. So I feel like that's definitely something that we observed.